You have always been, I mean, one of the loudest and proudest LGBTQ activists out there. Like you became just like the archetype for what people hoped trans people could achieve, not just in acting, but in any field. You've come out with a new documentary now that you are a part of and you've produced as well. And it's called Disclosure. And what I loved about it is it's a documentary taking us through how trans people have been portrayed by Hollywood and the entertainment industry for so long. Tell me why you chose to go with this route.
I am obsessed with looking back in history and to help us understand why we are where we are now. And there's so much that hasn't been done around looking at trans history on so many different levels. And because my work is in the media and I'm obsessed with media and want to do better and want the media to do better, it made a lot of sense.
We don't even think about it. From the time we're kids, we're receiving images and video, and we just start to assemble the world in our minds. There's no denying that trans has for a very long time been a punchline. Trans has been, always displayed as the other, the scary, the punchline. It's been this thing. Over the past few years, we've started seeing the change. But when you look at it as somebody who is trans, have you seen a big change? Has that change been enough?
Enough is relative, right? Like one of the things that film grapples with is that there is indeed unprecedented representation of trans folks in the media that really probably began about 6 years ago. And our director, Sam Fader, noted that whenever there's increased visibility of a marginalized community, there's often backlash and there's often increased violence. And that is exactly what we're seeing with the increased murders of Black trans women and with the legislative assault as well. So yes, things have gotten better in terms of visibility, and then there has been a backlash that we're seeing. And I think one of the most critical things that we should all remember is how the technique of divide and conquer works to divide marginalized people, right? So that I was so beautifully moved when I saw that protest for Black trans lives, right? A little over a week ago. And
in Brooklyn,
so many people, and here in LA as well, where folks were declaring that Black trans lives matter, that we understand that all Black folks are affected by systemic racism and that we have to come together, and all marginalized people have to come together.
Here's a question I have for you that's a difficult one, and I would only ask you because I'm comfortable with you. But how do you think we get to the place where people can acknowledge their discomfort and their misunderstanding of a thing whilst not offending or discriminating against the other person? How would you encourage that? In the same way we're having conversations around race, how would you say to people, hey, let's try and encourage just a movement in and around trans awareness?
I think we have to really learn how to sit with discomfort, period, right? I think whenever we are called upon to interrogate our internalized racism, our internalized transphobia, and we all internalize these things as Americans, probably as citizens of the world. And so we each have to be able to sit with that discomfort. I think so often when we come up against something that is uncomfortable for us, often we go into this defense mode. We go into fight, flight, or freeze. Oh my God, someone called me transphobic. Then I have to immediately defend that instead of taking a breath and taking a moment and sitting with the discomfort of maybe being called out. Maybe you weren't wrong, maybe you were. We all have to struggle. So I think a lot of it's about learning how to sit with discomfort, not going into fight, flight, or freeze, so we can actually hear what the criticism and the critique is, and then understanding that being uncomfortable does not mean that you are unsafe. Right? So there's a difference between with the bathroom conversation just makes me think so much about because for several years it was all about bathrooms, banning people from bathrooms, right? In the segregated South, white folks were not comfortable with Black people in the bathroom with them, but did that mean that they were unsafe? And so what does it mean for us to sit with discomfort? What does it mean for us to really ask ourselves, are we not safe or are we just uncomfortable?
I know you've been working on programs to try and help trans people break into the industry, just behind the cameras, and you're really pushing for how trans people are portrayed on screen. What are the big changes you think we need to make?
I think the piece is, how do we have diverse people in positions of power, right? One of the things I'm most proud of with Disclosure is that everyone on screen is trans, and most of the people working behind the scenes on the crew are also trans. And in the case when we couldn't find someone trans to fill a role, we had a fellowship program where we had a cisgender person train the trans person. But it's not just about what Cornel West calls putting black faces in high places, right? It's not just about, sort of putting, diverse people in the same sort of corrupt systems. We have to change the way that power works. And so much of that is about, I believe, changing the material conditions of poor and working people, the people who are the most marginalized, to get them, opportunities to work in the industry behind the scenes, and then be truly elevated to positions of power, to not just occupy the same sort of, corrupt systems, but to change the system.
Please welcome Joey Whimple and Jennifer Marie Long. Thank you very much for being here. Let's get straight into the topic and the day as it happened. Donald Trump tweeted out this message, essentially banning transgender service members from, serving in the military. Let's talk about the impact. First and foremost, what would the possible impact be if that were to happen right now to somebody who was serving in the military as a transgender person?
The immediate piece, you're looking at a reduction of force by nearly 15,000 service members across the board that serve in various segments, all branches, different skill sets. Some are highly regarded skill sets that are, very valuable to the military.
Right.
That is an immediate reduction that you're looking at in a force reduction.
So America as a whole loses military personnel who are helping keep the country safe.
Absolutely.
On a personal level, on a professional level, what does that mean to you as a transgender person who was serving? Because you are now both veterans, but as someone who is actively serving, what would that mean for you?
Someone who is actively serving, well, the past administration made a lot of strides in order to lift this ban. Right. And there was a lot of promise that was set in, and individuals felt that comfort, that safety net to come out in their units, and when they're working in these strenuous environments and such, and they felt that comfort to come out and say, hey, I identify this way, and now the carpet's being completely ripped out from underneath, and it just leaves this question of uncertainty. What's next? There's just those 3 tweets. We haven't seen any legislation, anything of the sort. We have no idea what this means.
When you say the rug has been pulled out, what does that mean specifically?
Well, you think of the service members, those that are serving actively. Many of them had come out, based on the last administration allowing open service. So then they were kind of lured into the open, and now at the same time, now that they're in the open, now their careers are in danger. Some, most of them are career soldiers. Those are the ones that made a career out of serving in the military, serving worldwide and globally with those demands, and now that's in jeopardy. Many have families. It's the impacts of their families as well. So now you're looking at getting literally fired from the military, being unemployed, and the main change to your family. How devastating would that be to any individual who showed up to work and somebody finds out that their whole department's going to be closed, or their job is in jeopardy?
Now, it's not just fired when it's the military. There is also the issue of how you are discharged.
Mm-hmm. That's an important issue.
Is that something that would concern an active service member?
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely, because that discharge code is everything. It's education benefits, it's health benefits, it's the lead into a new job. They can never work in the federal government again with a dishonorable discharge or anything underneath honorable, so it leaves that uncertainty for them completely.
When we look at what the president said with regards to disruption, again, a message that's echoed, through multiple places. You hear people saying, this is disruptive to the military. The fact that you are transgender is causing us to have this discussion, and now people are not focusing on fighting, and you are causing a problem. Do you feel that you are causing a problem? Do you feel that you being transgender is disrupting what's happening?
Absolutely not. No, I feel as if it is more or less something that's new, and individuals are afraid of change, such as those that are in charge of our country. Therefore, if a car is breaking down and there's a problem with the engine, you don't scrap the entire car. You work on it piece by piece to bring it up. I feel as if this is just a tiny piece of the military that people are afraid of because it's uncharted waters, and more or less, and I feel as if this is just something that can be worked with.
But did you experience, as someone who was in command, did you experience people reacting differently to you? Did you notice, your soldiers maybe not being as focused as they would have been because of what you were experiencing?
Most of that had occurred in my career at the very end. In the end, I wasn't allowed to serve openly. The very few last weeks of my career, word got out that I was transgender and that I was in fact living another life.
Right.
And the command called me up and asked me to retire quietly. So my career ended, with a phone call asking to retire, and then I was retired, not with great fanfare, not with the pomp and circumstances that comes to someone, of a senior enlisted. I was a sergeant major. That's the highest of enlisted ranks. I advised senior officers on on operations.
Right.
I handled troop welfare. These are the most trusted jobs in the military. And I was doing it up until that moment, until they found out. And interestingly enough, after so much time, many of them now understand, and they get it, and I'm friends with them, and I talk to them, and we've had conversations on it. And as far as the readiness is concerned, it's more of a misnomer. First of all, statistically, we're not a large volume of soldiers. It's not like we're talking about half the U.S. Army. Uh-huh. There was a bigger factor when we talked about in the time of Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Right.
Everybody had the same fears. The same fears existed, and in those same fears was how is it going to impact readiness. Same conversations we had in the military. Went to great lengths of briefing soldiers and doing studies and figuring out how it was going to work. And I gave those briefings to my soldiers and to the battalion. I gave those briefings on open service myself. And it was interesting because the command wondered how many were going to come out. Or what was it going to be like in the force? How are we going to handle it? And when it was all said and done, and the day they actually changed, you know what happened? Nothing. Nothing changed. Force was still the same. Everybody still served the way they did. So it impacted readiness. And we already have open service. So there's service members now, 15,000 service members right now serving on active duty openly. So if there's no disruption there, and it's not like General Mattis isn't saying we have a problem with force and readiness, then it's not an issue. Right now, the only reason it's not hasn't completed was the military was still completing the study on new service members entering the service on exactly what the protocols were going to be. But the fact of open service was there. And I even bring it to, the fact of look at other nations. There are about 14 other nations that have transgender folks serving openly.
Right.
Two of our largest partners, you got Britain and Australia. I mean, you have multiple nations that have service members. The Israeli forces have it, and they serve with distinction without issue. So when you look at other armies, we're not approaching something new. This is something that's, that has been proven, and we still show our ability to serve.
Now, as women of color, especially, we always have to worry about representation, right? And I know you want to be an example of a happy trans person in the media. Why is that important to you?
Well, all that media has been concerned with a lot of the time is telling the transition story, right. Telling the trauma, telling the effect that it did on the family, but not showing why we go through all that and how happy, like being so adamant about making yourself feel comfortable in your own skin. That's the whole reason why we do the transition. It isn't to like hurt or harm or traumatize our families or anyone else. It is to be our true happy selves. And we are missing that a lot.
That makes sense.
I don't want it to get like misconstrued that I want to be a representation of only I'm a happy trans person.
Right.
There are so many happy, well-adjusted, loving trans people, but you only see us getting murdered and
yes.
So to be able to normalize the fact that you probably have come into contact with 3 or 4 trans people every day and not even know it.
Right.
Because we are everywhere and we're not going anywhere.
Definitely understand that, because being, a woman of color and a plus size woman of color in this industry, you spend a lot of time, it's like, oh, well, you're plus size, you must be unhappy. And it's like, no, I'm not. Also, I'm very
the
pretty.
Skinny girls are unhappy because they're hungry. The skinny girls are hungry, but
they're very hungry. Girl, I was at a diner at 3 a.m. and I saw this drunk white girl eating a salad, and I'm like, that's not what you want.
That's not what anyone wants.
You
at
want
3 a.m.
fries. You were drunk at 3 a.m. Why are you eating lettuce? Eat the fries, girl. You were in a tracksuit. You're in yoga pants. It's working. Eat the fries. Drunk in a salad, you finna be sick. Now, I have to ask this question because we know we have to ask this question. Now, you won Drag Race at a time where drag is being politicized for absolutely no reason. What do you think they're really trying to do?
Well, I mean, the legislation, I don't want to be like political and say like this, I mean, you know,
we
the
can talk about
conservatives,
the government, because you know they out here acting a donkey. Right.
Yeah. It's always about these white men kind of trying to control people's bodies.
Right.
So we're doing, you know, controlling women's reproductive rights,
right,
controlling our medicine, like a basic human right of giving trans people and like even like anyone good health care.
Right.
So it's always about controlling. And I always notice that these guys, they're not really killing a lot of like trans men. There's a lot of trans women being murdered. That's because these men objectify trans women as much as they objectify cis women.
Yes.
So once they objectify you and you're living your truth, they get so mad.
Yes.
Because they're one, jealous that they're not living their truth.
Yes.
And two, because it makes them question, why do I like this? But why do you have to question that? Why does that even have to be a thing, you know? So for all of them, I think they just want to be in drag. Or they probably went in drag, and then they look awful. Santos.
So, listen, you hop in drag, you find out you're a booger, and you...
Bitter booger.
Bitter
honey.
Booger.
Honey.
And you're like, you know
ban
what?
Them all.
This free tress wig might not be for me.
She couldn't find a mother.
She couldn't find a
They said,
mother?
no, lost cause.
Now...
Call CPS.
Listen, call CPS. Oh my goodness, nothing like calling CPS on a 45-year-old man. It's like, not on his children, sir, on you. You need adult supervision.
This is true. This is true.
So with all these anti-drag bills that they're starting to pass places, has that affecting where you can work?
Yes, I'm a little nervous to go to Tennessee, and I do have a booking there in like a month or so.
You could be committing crime.
I mean, technically, setting foot down there, I'm breaking the law for some reason, you know? It's insane.
Even when you're in girl drag?
Well, so if you are, I'm not too sure exactly, but I've heard from my queen friends, like Aura, she lives in Tennessee, like, you can get in drag at the venue. But to be out, like, walking from your car to the venue, if you're in drag, you're breaking the law. So someone like me who doesn't, this is what it's made for. I can't get out of drag. I'm a trans woman.
Because you're a woman.
I'm going to be breaking the law, and that's what they want.
Oh, because they're trying to say
it's a roundabout way to get trans people controlled.
So they're trying to say you're in drag when you're really just wearing a woman's...
The legislation, I believe, like the wording is, if you're in an article of clothing that is not your assigned birth article of clothing, that's how they can roundabout say that drag is illegal, and then the real thing is being trans is illegal.
Oh, that I didn't.
Y'all didn't know that?
They live in New York. They think they free.
I know. We live in a good left bubble.
Listen, I've had a lot of people try to con me and tell me that New York wasn't racist. Go outside.